episode 12 of Sir Ulric Hosts Money Matters. Today I have a guest that has been impactful in my Bitcoin journey, Adam Meister. There's not much else I could say except for he's done me several favors in including me on his podcast, putting me in contact with other influential Bitcoin businesses to help my voice reach all the people that I want to. So Adam, thank you for coming on the show. How are you today?
I am great. And, I give you all the credit in the world because in this space, if you want to network, go talk to a guy who wants to help other people. You came up to me. I said, this is awesome. This dude's awesome. I am a networker. I love connecting people in the space. I know I've been around like longer than anybody, and I could put people in touch in 1 second. I knew who immediately to put you in touch with. So that's what I do for people these days, is help them get. But few people take the initiative to actually few people are in motion, as I say. They like to be a tree. They make up excuses. But no, this is a great networking, growing space, and I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, and the story behind you and me meeting is you were I don't know if you had a booth or if you were just hanging out at a booth at Pacific Bitcoin in 22. Yeah. But you were there. I recognized you. You were talking to Hodl Tarantula, I believe, and I just wanted to say, like, oh, I've heard of you. Like, I've heard your stuff. I appreciate your content, and I just wanted to introduce myself. I may have dropped a hot take there, and in our connection kicked off from there. You're a Baltimore Orioles fan. You like a little bit of basketball, and not to say I like Baltimore, but I did see a Baltimore game. I got rained out there. We had to leave after the third inning. It was awesome. But we made connections. We developed rapport, and you were one of my trusted Bitcoin friends, and I couldn't be more thankful.
Yeah, I mean, you were doing that awesome declaration of what was that? That was so cool.
Declaration really of Monetary Independence. Yeah, it was fun, and I mean, maybe I'll bring it back once in maybe one day in the future. I'm not doing it at Bitcoin Miami this time or Bitcoin Nashville, but it's a passion of mine, and the website's still up. So for everyone who doesn't know, Declaration of Monetary Independence.org, a long ass website name. Check it out, and you can show all your friends the differences between the evils of fiat and the hope for Bitcoin. So yeah, Adam, I wanted to get into, when we did your show, when I was a regular on your show in the summer of last year, you did a good job of corralling the most recent and up-to-date Bitcoin news topics. And there's something that would easily slip my mind if we don't talk about it right away. And so I wanted to get into it first. It's not Bitcoin, but it's the Ethereum ETF. It got announced, I believe, or it got announced to be to say that they're going to approve it. The announcement for the approval, and it drove the Ethereum price crazy. 23% in a day. I just want to get your spin on what's your perspective of the Ethereum ETF.
Oh, I love it. I love it because I think it's great for Bitcoin because it's just going to get more normies into the space. Now, what I also think it shows is just the insanity on some people leading up to it. There were so many people that said it's never going to happen. And now they're just in like total panic. Like, why? It was so obvious to me that it was going to happen, first of all. That was embarrassing that they kept on saying that. Smart people. It shows you how biased and how, I call it the Bitcoin Inquisition. There can only be one. And they've gotten to a point of tribal blindness. As I've said before, it's the first time in the history of mankind that people have become tribal behind money. I mean, you get tribal behind baseball teams, you get tribal behind countries, tribal behind politicians. Religion, yeah. Of course. This is like a religion of these people. And it's not very free market, and that's the bad thing about it. Not at all. That's the thing. It's very and they're begging the government to not let it happen. This is it's embarrassing. It's shameful. Now, it gets approved, And well, first, and it was obvious, it was really obvious it was going to get approved like a week before when the insiders started buying it up and started going up in price. I mean, it was the same behavior that happened with the Bitcoin ETF. Like all of a sudden you have this huge pump. And it basically also, while they're during this huge pump and they're still screaming it's not going to happen, Bitcoin hit $70,000 again. It brought Bitcoin up too. Now, Ethereum went up at a faster pace. But dudes, I mean, it's amazing that Bitcoin hit its previous all-time high during the old cycle of 2020. It hit its 2020. It broke its 2021 all-time high again. It had already broken it at 73 back in March, but it broke it again at 70 something because of Ethereum. And they're still screaming Ethereum is bad for Bitcoin. I just look at reality, dudes. Look at reality here. So now now the Ethereum and Bitcoin have gone down again because they did the approval with Ethereum has put it in this kind of middle ground now. They can't sell the ETF yet. So with Bitcoin, it was like they approved it and then all of a sudden you could buy it. And then all of a sudden a lot of people, all these normies started piling in and they had to buy more and more Bitcoin, the funds and whatnot. So we haven't hit that with the Ethereum yet. So again, there are people that are screaming at, oh, look, Ethereum is dead again. I mean, this is the most ridiculous. Once they allow the people to, sell the actual ETFs, it'll go up again and Bitcoin will go up again. And we should just all be happy because Bitcoin will be going up again. If you hate Ethereum, and you only love Bitcoin, well, just be happy. Bitcoin will be going up again. When Ethereum starts going up, it'll be driven by the Ethereum ETF and all the news stories about it and all the new people. I have this term diversification for the sake of diversification. It's a total normie thing. And some of them think they're so smart. They say, oh, I have some Bitcoin, and they have to say they have something else. The next thing they say is Ethereum. Like it or not, the second thing that they have to say that they're diversified is Ethereum. So now some of these schmoes that, they've had a chance to buy Bitcoin and Ethereum for like 7 freaking years through CoinBase, okay? No, they didn't feel safe until it was in an ETF. Well, now they're going to be able to buy both. Well, they really won't own any of it, but whatever. They think they're going to own both through ETFs. And so the Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs, and that'll be great. That's why I think it's a positive. More and more normies will get into it. More 70-year-olds or whatever that have all this money on the sideline that only can buy through their brokers and all this nonsense. Addicted to third-party people. But hey, they're not going to, they're all these young guys that are like, oh, we got to get used to self-custody. No, a 70-year-old man, 70-year-old woman, they're not getting used to self-custody. Just let them do it the old way. You focus on the newbies. As long as they own more Bitcoin, it's great. And if the only way they're going to find about Bitcoin is because now there's an Ethereum ETF and a Bitcoin ETF, then great. That's awesome. Because there's some people that are going to they're going to hear about this Ethereum ETF and they're going to hear about Ethereum as this product you can get yield on and everything. They'll buy it and then they'll be like, well, I got to balance the portfolio with something more stable, and that's Bitcoin. Diversification for the sake of diversification on that end. So that's what I think about the whole situation. And you're right. It is shameful that many people in the space were asking for the Gary Gensler and the government to deny Ethereum, thus to make that's the way Bitcoin's going to win and be the only one that the government makes it. That's their dictate. That's terrible.
And it's really interesting that that's the same government that they were complaining to leave things alone. And I think it shows the true colors of where people seek their values and incentives, yes. Even though they talk a mean game when it's only focused on Bitcoin, but when there's other people that are looking to bring their product to market, you're quick to go tap on the government's shoulder and say, like, go get them. It's disingenuous and hypocritical. And speaking of, the news is definitely the epitome of disingenuous. And I wanted to talk about another ugly head that's reared itself again, the Mt. Gox debacle. And before we get into exactly what happened, maybe you can give an elevator spin on what exactly made Mt. Gox synonymous with a catastrophe and a really bad situation. Could you expand on the history a little bit?
Oh, of course. I'd be happy to, because now it's been 11 years. 11 years. So if you're some 25-year-old Bitcoiner now, you're 14. Everybody, put that in perspective. Put that in perspective. I mean, it's amazing. It was so okay. Basically, what was the guy's name? Mark, whoever was in charge, Karpalis. He stole a bunch of Bitcoin from his weirdly put together exchange in Japan. You would have to wire money there to buy the Bitcoin. I mean, this is before 2030. He had it before, and so he had some bot called Willy Bot that was pumping up the price, and it was part of the reason the Bitcoin got to $1,100 in 2013. But then, people started finding out about it. There was a panic that people tried to get their money out of it. And Japan came in and, shut it down. And it's based in Japan. So the redistribution of the Bitcoin or the money or the funds, whatever you want to say, was regulated by the country of Japan. Okay. He got in trouble. Some people try to make up excuses for the whole situation. It was very scary back then because that was the biggest exchange. It went goodbye. The mainstream media did cover it, and they made it seem like Bitcoin had been hacked or Bitcoin had been it was weak. It was this guy, this joker running an exchange in a very unprofessional way. Of course it got hacked, but it was early days, so there was so much confusion. It really helped jumpstart the bear market. The price went down from 1,100 eventually down to like 150. And there were so many people that thought it could go to zero then. That was the last bear market. People thought it could go to zero. But so I got over it pretty quick. I never had any money there. But there were a lot of OGs that had money there that got very disappointed. No longer, they quit the Bitcoin space. And that was unfortunate for them. But the other unfortunate thing, it just took Mt. Gox a long time to figure out how they were going to give all the money back, if it was going to be in dollars or yen or Bitcoin. And I think you had an option. And so starting about 2016, I'd say, there kept on being rumors of they just sold a lot. The guy, there was a custodian that held all this Bitcoin. And it took them so long to, they had some funds left over there that had to be redistributed, okay? Not all of it was stolen. I think they've recovered some. I don't know. But there had to be a redistribution finally because they owed people Bitcoin. People thought they had 13 Bitcoin. Maybe they only had 11 Bitcoin, but they wanted it back. And the price of Bitcoin had gone up by 2016, by 2017 at least. And it was worth more than dollar-wise. It ended up, even though they might have lost some Bitcoin, these people, now it was worth more in terms of fiat, and they wanted their Bitcoin back, or they wanted something back at least. And it was taking a while. It took so long that Bitcoin, the Bcash fork happened. So now they were entitled to that crypto dividend, and that added some complexity to the whole situation. And I was just glad I wasn't part of it. But there kept on being rumors like, the Mt. Gox custodian is selling some of the Bitcoin now to get the funds to repay the people. And we've gone through that cycle, at least 6 times, it seems like. And every time that rumor comes out there, now I think people just put the rumor out there to just create chaos.
Just to drop the price to buy the dip.
Because, dude, it works every time. Now we're at a point where they're not even selling it. There's a rumor that they're going to redistribute it. Well, that's great. The people will finally get their Bitcoin and their Bcash or whatever. They're going to get it all back. But then the price drops. It's just so predictable. So I'm just tired of hearing about it. I'm tired. It's not a new thing, you newbies. You think so? Don't panic. We've been going through this redistribution, reselling, this, that, and the other since at least 2017. And it's just when it's finally out of the system, that'll be great. But it really is out of the system already in terms of It means nothing. What does it mean if they, I think some people are like, well, if they redistribute, they give it to some of these people, then all of a sudden some of these people that have been owed Bitcoin for 13, so long are going to sell it immediately. Okay, maybe some of it, some of their, it's a minor little blip. I think that a lot of the people are just going to be happy they're getting this valuable Bitcoin back that's much more valuable than when it was at $1,100, isn't it? Even if they're only getting half of it back, my Lord. So
it's funny because it's like you think that people just after all that time they've been forced to hold, and a lot of people who were in Bitcoin back in 2010, 2011, 2014, they have found their opportunities to sell since then. So not everyone who held Bitcoin in 2011 necessarily are holding in 2024, unless, guess what, you lost your keys, you recovered them again, you were locked in Mt. Gox, you got it back, you were locked in some exchange, you got it back. People have been forced to bear through history. And now you would think that once, and history has made Bitcoin to be more legitimate than ever before, not a government, not Michael Saylor buying it, not your favorite athlete buying it, but time has made it more legitimate because every day it doesn't go to zero, it's more likely to go to 1 million and past that. And so when we factor in time, even when people get their Mt. Gox coins back, I'll tell you this, if I was on Mt. Gox and I had 100 Bitcoin, I may sell a little bit to chip myself off a nice house or a nice car. But I look at that money, I look at what's happening with the dollars, and I'm like, there's no way I'm selling this to get into fiat. It's proven itself. So it's just kind of funny, the FUD that comes around. Any feedback about that? Yeah.
There was something that you said that they were forced, they were forced to hold.
Yeah.
I retweeted a tweet. You can follow me on Twitter. It's down below, Techbalt, TECHBALT. I thought it was hilarious. Someone said, greatest forced hold ever is Mt. Gox. So that is good. That's a good frame. There's a good positive, for all these people. This was a great, you got some of you dudes out there who, it's sad you had to wait so long. At least, some of you would have sold some of that bought some socks with it in 2014. Okay. So I didn't say stocks. I said socks with it. like some people.
That's really, right.
People actually bought socks.
I know people who worked for Bitcoin in 2013 and were selling it just to buy a cup of noodle soups. So it's like they weren't all these people that made, everyone who says, "Oh, I wish I bought it. I wish I bought it in 2012." Like, shut up! You would have sold in 2014. It doesn't matter that you didn't buy back then. And that's the catch. There's so much. You think FUD is crazy now or in 21, during the COVID times and China ban. The FUD was actually real. It wasn't unreasonable. It was FRD, fear and reason to doubt, because that sucker could have been destroyed. And Michael Saylor has made a point where it's like once an asset becomes, I think, worth over 100 million or 500 million, some threshold.
Yeah, something like that.
Some multiple of, maybe it was 100 billion. It is really, really hard to just cancel it. And most people aren't caught up to that. I know coworkers, I know people in my life that is like, oh yeah, the government's just going to ban it. I'm like, the government actually came out, SEC, the commodity office, they came out and said, we aren't looking to ban Bitcoin, nor can we. But, people will catch up to, I guess, contemporary times of one day.
That's the thing. Back in 2015, there was still a legitimate fear. That's when that it would go to zero, because it gone from Mt. Gox high down to $170 or $60, whatever it was. But that's when my hand got really strong, because I talked to some people. We were logical about it. And there was, it was Vinny Lingham who said, there are guys in Silicon Valley, there is a price that it can drop to, and they're just going to back up the freaking truck. So you got to think, what is the back up the freaking truck price? And this was in April of 2015. I was actually in South Africa in the Cape Town, the Bitcoin conference, the first one ever in Africa. And I thought to myself, you know, what is the backup the truck price? And I knew it was like, well, it's not going to get to zero. It's probably around $100 or something like that. It didn't even get up. It didn't go down to there. Nobody had to back up the truck. And then there were probably plenty of people that bought some. I mean, I bought some at 200. I remember around that time period. But also, it's funny you said the government. Now people still use. They don't talk about the going to zero FUD anymore, but that the government can ban it. But like, how can you And most people say that because they're like, I met a guy the other day, a doctor, for God's sakes, a doctor. I'm telling him what I do. And he's like, it's scary. It's scary. You know, the government could shut it down. It's a scary. I'm scared of it.
And then I say, which government? Because Bitcoin is in every single country in the world. So they're all going to all of a sudden bring about world peace to work against Bitcoin. It doesn't work like that.
What I said at that point, I'm like, they're ETFs now, man. And that's another thing that Bitcoin people have to say. You know, if you're a Bitcoin person, you don't like the government. You don't like now the government has other things that it could, you know, if Bitcoin people are a little bit paranoid, and that's fine, that's good for some things. And so they were still, I was saying, like, there's a Bitcoin ETF. Why would the government want to get rid of it now? They've already approved it in one. Well, now there's an Ethereum ETF. So if they wanted to have a scapegoat, they could go after that now. So all you I have said this, the altcoins are shields for Bitcoin. So let there be a Solana ETF. All of them have ETFs now. I don't give a darn. That's more shields for Bitcoin. Okay, but I don't think the government's not going to try to shut down any of this now. And so that guy is telling me, it's just, the guy was such a normie. And I felt like I almost got a little frustrated. He's like, you know, you should buy government bonds. I hear they're safe. I'm like, oh my God. Oh my Lord! Like you hear they're safe. I'm telling you, I've owned. Do you understand who I am? I couldn't say that. Like he didn't grasp it. Like there's some people that like. I try to say it politely that I've done well for myself. Okay, I say I've owned Bitcoin since 2013. I've never sold a Bitcoin, and I thought for some people they get it. A few people, but few people get what that really means at all. I mean, you understand what that means. If there's some guy telling you, I bought Bitcoin. I started buying Bitcoin in 2013. I never sold a Bitcoin for fiat. That means you shouldn't be telling them to buy government bonds. I could buy the whole government for everything. But you get the point. You get the. I sound like that lying complete fake. Craig Wright once said he could buy some government or something. I just sounded like that animal. Sorry, you people. I didn't mean to sound like a psychotic liar there. That's insane. But you get the point there. Most normies are going to default to the again. That guy was talking about safety. Like, I'm scared of it. I mean, at least he admitted he was scared of Bitcoin, and he thought governments could shut things down and everything.
What's crazy about that is that, you know, and people, you know, millennials, you know, will still talk about government bonds and how it's such a great deal, and the 5% annual return. And I even saw a tweet recently, right like a few days ago, and I was thinking about what a horrible strategy, where someone said, and they're an influencer, they have 50,000 followers, I can sell everything I have and buy up a bunch of government bonds and make a return of enough to live comfortably. And the way he calculated it, whatever he would have sold, he would make $80,000 in return annually for 30 years. And then at the end of the 30 years, he'll just sell them or something, and then go re-up the strategy. But I'm thinking, like, you know, the people who believe in government bonds also do not believe in monetary debasement. They don't believe in inflation at all, because they say this stable income is going to be good this year as much as it's going to be good in 5 years. And they just have such a high time preference. It's almost like they have blinders that they can't see past the tip of their nose.
Yeah, you know, that was the first thing I was going to say. You're a smart dude, because you said exactly what I was going to say. I'm like, this guy doesn't understand inflation, and that's exactly what you said. I mean, it's happy-flation. Hey, if they hear inflation, they ignore it. It's something good, maybe. I don't know. They don't understand it. The debasement. They might not even know what the definition of that word really is. I don't know, but it's yeah, to rely on these government bonds. It's like something my grandma did. She's been going for a little while.
When the money was good or relatively good.
Exactly. It was a different time then. She bought bonds in the 50s, 60s. It's a different world, dudes. We've got other options. That it is clear that no matter who's in office, they're just going to keep spending, printing. So it's not worth as much anymore. And by the way, speaking about governments and being a wealthy Bitcoiner, here's a news thing. I made a joke that I could buy the government. Literally, though, in Baltimore City, I could buy. They're cheap. I could buy a politician easily buy. I was just I set up a super PAC and and yeah, I would own them. Yeah, this is but. So to take that to a more something that we can relate to, it's funny in the last 2 years what's happened. These politicians in Washington, D.C. and at the state capitals realize that these Bitcoiners are new rich guys. Let's hear what they have to say. And because we are rich people, because some people held, and because of some of those holders talking, they've changed their tune totally. They are now the Bitcoin lobby, cryptocurrency lobby, whatever you want to call it. It is legitimate. And just the other day, when Trump made his announcement, and now the Biden administration is a little scared. Elizabeth Warren isn't their favorite person in the world anymore. The Democrats, when it comes to cryptocurrency, it's been an interesting month. And it's people don't might leave a bad taste in people's mouth, but guess what? That's government. They all can be bought, okay? It's all about money. And guess what? We're the rich ones now, and they're going to listen to us. And they've definitely started listening to us, haven't they? That has become apparent in the last month. So Liz Warren, hating the rich, it ain't playing anymore because your other friends are so greedy and want so much money they want to get reelected so much, we just have to give them like $4,000 a piece. And they're ours. It's hilarious.
I've heard that a senator can essentially be bought for about $10,000. Like if you say, hey, I got $10,000 for you, I want this, I want you to work on this law. They'll essentially say, sir, yes, sir, and they'll do what they need to do to make sure that tip comes back around soon. Because when you leave a nice tip like that generally means there's more where that came from. So you're going to have that senator in your pocket for as little as 10 grand. And that's just a report I saw. You're saying 4, I saw 10. It could be less, it could be more. It depends on which senator.
Whatever the maximum contribution you can make. I don't know what it is. I was at the 4. I was that's an old number from maximum contributions to local elections in Maryland or something. I was thinking of. I mean, it varies on the federal level, the state level. But if you just create a super PAC, you can you give them as much as you want. That's what they really like. And now there are some of those type of things popping up there, and you will really own them there if you get create some super PAC and give them $100,000 or something like that, and get other people to donate to it. My Lord. And all we're asking is not to get regulated very hard. That's what all these people, the Bitcoin lot, I think they should be asking for more. But again, I know some of the dudes in the Bitcoin lobby. I give them all the credit in the world. They're not asking for the world. They're asking for, legit, just so that we can keep doing this thing. Okay. Now, some people, it's what I would love to see is just in the end of the day, Bitcoin be treated as money. If you sell it,
capital gains, right? You
don't get taxed on it. And so then I will have a huge smile on my face for all those people out there that have told me, why haven't you sold some? Why haven't you sold some? Well, guess what? It's going to, and I've said this many times, it's going to end up, if I would have sold it, I would have had to pay the government a lot of money in taxes. And now under some new future regime, I don't have to pay any taxes. That is a huge difference, for some of the biggest. So yeah, and Robert F. Kennedy, I think, has actually said that. Now, I don't know if he's going to, it would be cool if he won. That's great. I'm not ruling it out. It's a long shot, but at least it's out there in the mainstream that, yeah, there's some big names out there that want to make Bitcoin pure money, and it's not going to get taxed like capital gains. That would be great. That would be awesome.
Before we get into the government too far, I wanted to segue back to the exchanges, because another thing happened literally today, at least the news broke today, is that, and let me read it off, over $300 million equivalent in Bitcoin was stolen off another modern Japanese exchange called DMM Bitcoin. And basically what they said was at approximately 1:26 p.m. Friday, Japan time, we detected an unauthorized leak of Bitcoin from our wallet. And I think, and essentially 4,500 Bitcoin was stolen, and that they are promising to reimburse all of the affected parties through support from our group company. So whoever owns DMM Bitcoin is probably a massive multi-billion dollar corporation. And it seems like they were not taking care of their customers' funds as they should. But, you know, Adam, it just gets to, you know, I've been in the Bitcoin space for now going on 5 years, and I just see this too often. There's an exchange in South Africa where the guy still hasn't been caught. There's an exchange in Turkey. There's of course Mt. Gox over 10 years ago. FTX, we were talking about making a super PAC. How about shout out FTX? And now you have this one right here. You know, all of the Bitcoin from the ETFs are on Coinbase, 80% of them at least. When are people going to learn that the primary use case for Bitcoin is what makes it valuable, not sticking it in essentially a modern futuristic bank? What's going on?
Oh, well, most of them are never going to learn because the Japanese company they reimbursed everybody immediately there, didn't they? So when they're going to be kind of happy, they'll be like, well, it's a safe place. It's like having FDIC insurance. It's that so a lot of them most of them are never going to learn.
Now they did say when, you know, this hopefully this doesn't turn out to be Mt. Gox for those poor souls.
I've seen it happen so many times, and just when a new person comes, it's just, I think maybe when it'll partially be solved and when it becomes super duper duper easy to self-custody, but I don't know when that will be. I wish those guys a lot of luck making it easier, but people have been born in the mindset of like, I put my money at a third party. They don't care about that aspect of Bitcoin, that it eliminates the third party. Just like there's some Bitcoiners that don't care about the aspect of not being regulated by the government, that they're crying to the government to do something to Ethereum. I mean, there's just a lot of people that don't have the complete ethos of what you might think is Bitcoin, you know, self-custody, get government out of money. There's some people that just never will have that, and they just want to try something new. They're going to always see it as a stock. So I think one of the things that comes out of today that's just hilarious with this news is that it always crashes the Bitcoin price to some extent. And so it went down to 1,500. It's so predictable, and it has nothing to do with Bitcoin. It's just like another exchange. There was an inside job or another crook on another exchange. Wow, what's that really do? And I think a lot of times what's going on, I think Soros is a master of this, and there's so many mini Soroses out there. You create as much chaos as you can, and you control everything. Like, so there's some big money people in Bitcoin. They hear some bad news. Every time they hear something that's even partially bad, they sell, and they create just more and more sell, and then they buy back for more. So it's just so predictable now. If an exchange is going to go down again, it'll be more of it. There's just more, and the news buys into it when the price goes down. So you do mention Coinbase owning a lot of Bitcoin, and that is disturbing. And I think we've all been saying it for a while. Eventually, one of these ETFs is going to get quote unquote hacked. And that'll be much big. A United States ETF getting hacked, but they'll reimburse everybody because they're rich as anything. But it will expose a whole new portion of the normie audience to hacks of Bitcoin, and the media will jump on it. Some of the big money will start selling a lot of Bitcoin. So we expect an ETF hack eventually. I mean, I guess that's the biggest thing. If a prime exchange in Japan can still get hacked, you better believe an American ETF, there's like 20 of them now or something like that, Yeah, one of them is going to have a catastrophe of some sort. Maybe they'll lose the private key. I don't know. The people get reimbursed, but the price of Bitcoin will drop by like $10,000
because of the fear.
Yeah, because of the fear and other people selling into it. But me making this, it's not a bold prediction. All the little examples that we just mentioned, it's the same thing over and over again. Whenever there's a little bit of bad news, it has nothing to do with the actual asset of Bitcoin. Bitcoin's still as stable as it ever was. It's just some secondary thing involving third parties or whatever, and the price goes down. So people, I am so used to it now. It has no effect on me at all because I've seen it literally hundreds of times. And I've seen some really bad ones. Obviously, the FTX that'll probably be ranked as the worst one for now, but something will beat that. There will be worse news than that. It'll have something to do with an ETF, definitely.
And it's funny because, I mean, worse news about, I mean, people could say, well, no, couldn't be worse than the FTX, sent it from, 60,000 to 20,000 or whatever. Maybe it was 45 to 20 or 19. But is that, that's, how would I say it? When I go skiing and people see a Bitcoin sticker on my snowboard and they start talking about it. I've had for multiple years now, not even just when it happened in 22. I had it happen to me in 22, 23, and 24, where they correlate Bitcoin and FTX as if they are one and the same. And the idea is that the exchanges, institutions have taken the place or become synonymous with money. And that is technically true when you think about, fiat and a bank. Fiat and a central bank, they are one. And then the national, the regional banks are just derivative or just children of those larger institutions. But when you have Bitcoin, the exchanges are essentially renting the use of Bitcoin. They don't own Bitcoin. They don't own the protocol. They don't own the code. They don't own the nodes nor the miners. They are like, we have some Bitcoin if you would like it, or we have paper Bitcoin. But the catch is normies still have not been able to separate a decentralized asset from a medium of access to that asset. And so every time something was hacked, they think that it's going to be a brute force, hooded figure, punching in some C code and using a command prompt. Not with Bitcoin. If anything, and again, learning all the different ways that people can essentially hack, social engineering, stealing passwords, stealing credentials. These are the easiest and least complex from a technical standpoint, but from a social standpoint, these are actually the ways that all of these horrible things have happened. When the power system down in I think on the East Coast, maybe the South, I forget what it was called, but they were extorted by some digital pirates, and they were saying, send me 100 Bitcoin or your power is going to stay off. This wasn't because of a brute force. It was because someone gained access to those credentials and they were able to basically get the keys to the car. And the same thing with the exchanges. Someone was bad with their own personal security, or someone was an insider and did it and said, you know what, let me help you out. And we may not ever know who that is. And they'll say,
people don't want to think. They want a simple answer.
Bitcoin has never been hacked. It never will be.
Yeah, I know. They don't understand the concept of Bitcoin even being hacked. They just, they want a simple answer. They say FTX got hacked, so Bitcoin got hacked. By the way, the future ETF problem, it's so, everything is so cyclical. We only get bad things, like mega bad things. Well, maybe, and it's also partially because of the time that they happen at, but so they get magnified. But I'll say this: the ETF hack or whatever, it'll probably happen in 2026, which is scheduled on the 4-year cycle. 2014, 2018, 2020.
To potentially have a correction. That's right.
That's the correction year. That's the
people still haven't figured that out. Not to say that's going to always happen, but until it's not happening, it's like, you may want to, if you're trying to have a short-term hold, you may want to buy right now. So if you want to sell something close to the top, it would be around this same time next year. And I'm not trying to tell people to trade. I'm trying to, there's no better, just like there's no better teacher than to actually be impacted by something bad. I'm sure those DMM people are thinking, maybe I should self-custody next time. If an ETF gets hacked, people will probably say, you know what, maybe I should buy the real asset. When that money, when you see that cycle happen, you get it. I'm sorry to cut you off, but yeah.
And that's it. So what we're living in right now, you know, something very unexpected happened this cycle. We hit the all-time high before the halving even happened. That was because of the Bitcoin ETF.
That's right.
That's it. That's it. So, but you know, last time around we had the virus pop up and it went down an incredible amount, which was very unexpected. So you have bad things. It all evens out over time, but that same general 4-year cycle is there. Oh, I wonder why. It's because of the it's because of the supply. And also some of these guys, you know, study people's psychology and everything. It's just the way everyone started getting into this pattern too. Like it's self-reinforcing. But what we have again now, if it was totally normal, right now we would have a slow ramp up until about November and December until we beat 69,000, which was the we've already beaten it. So it'll be a slow until we get to 73,000 again. And so people should not be worried that it's at 60,000 or 58,000 or whatever it might be. That would be totally normal during all the other cycles and everything like that. But we have these guys that have to get attention, that have to write articles, that have to get clicks, that say, well, maybe this time it's different, and that we hit the high super early this cycle. And there's a guy who is a great contributor to my, you know, he sent me various financial contributions to my channel over the years. And he said to me, you know, Adam, I just sold, you know, because I wanted to take my profits. You've inspired me to hold since before 2017. But I'm like, of all times now, like at the beginning of the 2025 all-time high peak, because once we reach our all-time high in November, December, or January, then it starts really blasting to God willing, the 6-digit realm and stuff. I mean, that's what the next year, you know, 2021, 2025, 2017, they're all 2013. It's about reaching these highs that are like unimaginable beforehand.
I think it's the unit bias. When you think about that, this is interesting because, you know, that 21 to 22 crash, that's a lot of dollar units, and people are ingrained to think in dollar terms, even though the percentage wasn't as high as maybe 2013 or 17. They think 40,000 of base units that I think of in my unit of account. I think that whatever happens in say the 29 time frame, 29-30 time frame, when you're thinking about it's at, you know, 600,000 and it goes down to 200,000, people may start committing suicide because they're still ingrained in their dollar bias. But it's all about adoption. Do you not remember when it was $40,000? Lower your time preference.
Well, you do say something that's very important, very sad. If it ever does get to those ratios of like 600 down to 100 or something like that, men will be killing themselves. Please, guys, do not do that. Seriously, I mean, these are serious things. And so there are some people out there that have said before that they want this cycle to break in a way that Bitcoin will all this, like, you know, Bitcoin is now, people are used to Bitcoin around 50,000, 67,000. That all of a sudden, if it broke down to $9,000, they think that would be awesome. So they could buy all this more. And that's not going to happen. And also by wishing that, and that's fine. You can wish whatever you want to, but do think about the consequences to your fellow man. There will be people killing themselves if that happens. I mean, it's sad because that's a very unexpected, or if it got down to 1,000 or something like that. I mean, but I do.
We went to 16,000. None of those people were buying.
Well, and that's what I wanted to point out. You talked about it dropping 40,000 from 60,000 to 20. That's not really what the really doomers point out, which is true. It got up to like 69, which let's say is 70, and the low was 15.5. Okay, so that's a lot of money. That's $55,000 difference, not 40,000. And so the reason I'm pointing this out is like what you just said. How many people were actually buying at 15.5? How many people had that term in their head? backing up the truck. You know that I do, because you know I own I own plenty of Bitcoin, but I rarely, and I bought the bulk of it from 2013 to 2017, especially in 2016 was my big year of buying, okay? But so what other times has Adam Meister bought Bitcoin since then? That's something people should learn from, and something that I've told people freely. Another time that I bought a combined, 2 Bitcoin in 2 days was on March the 12th to 13th of 2020, when everybody was panicking in the streets and over the virus, the world was shutting down. I bought Bitcoin. All right. So but that's not, that was an anomaly. Then the other time I did it, there were 2 times. On Juneteenth, that crash of 2022, when it crashed down to 18 and 19, I got some around 19. Okay. And that seemed very scary to people, because that it had gone down below the all-time high of 2017 at that point. That was unprecedented. And then again in November of 2022 at FTX. I didn't buy a whole Bitcoin, but I bought plenty of it. And it was worth like 16,000 then, or something like that, or 17. I forgot what I paid. It doesn't matter. There's no difference between 18 and 17 and 16 now. Is there? No, there isn't. But so few people buy, or 20. There's so few people that buy when there's blood in the streets. It is a good opportunity. That is, yes. And you should be looking around. You shouldn't be listening to all the doom and gloomers then. You should be listening to, because every time it is paid off magnificently. I mean, it is embarrassing when you look back at the people who were selling then, and the people who were buying are very few. I'm very proud to be one of those people. That's why I bring up those stories as much as possible, just to show people that, but with the unit bias then, it seems scary if you think about it as going down from 70 to 15. It sounds depressing, but you gotta have balls of steel. Then you gotta be a man and do what I did, but not at the very least not sell then. But at the same time, selling now is not a good idea. It's not that. I mean, if you got to pay for some things, fine. But the guy was implying to me he was selling a very large amount.
Converting his savings. Yeah, I'd like to say that I'm a junior Adam Meister, because there's no other time that I bought as much as I did than essentially in 2020, and that late 2022, early 2023, when FTX happened. I'm like, this is where I'm going hard. And honestly, even all of that 22 is almost like it was angry purchases, where it's like, oh no, they're not, this cycle stuff isn't going to scare me. So it's like every time it dipped, I was dipping into my fiat savings. And I'm happy that I was able to still have some left over when the post FTX time happened, because I was ready to essentially back up the truck from that time frame as well. There's something I wanted to talk about for the last leg of the show. As we, an analogy I like to think about is every time these bad things happen, people run out the room because they think the room is going to explode, and the room is Bitcoin, and then they run out the room, boom, and then they peek back and it's like, Bitcoin didn't explode. What happened? And every time that happens, I feel like the floor raises. The 16,000 for us in 2022, 2023 is kind of like 2018, or even the COVID drop. And I'm wondering, what is the thing that's going to, when you think about these presidential candidates and they talk about Bitcoin in a way that you think is generally positive. I mean, the Democrats are saying we want to work with policymakers. They can't avoid policymakers. They love making policy. You have RFK, who's been on the Bitcoin stage and has talked about it, and is like, it's bullish. And then you have Trump. He says he's going to free Ross if he's elected. He says, I got this. I have, I want to keep you guys away from Elizabeth Warren and her goons. But they say this right now, election year. Someone gets elected, and all of a sudden there gets to be this almost like this New York mayor kind of dynamic, where they forget all the Bitcoin things that they said, and they let their 3 letters go run amok and run Bitcoin out of town. Do you think that people are too trusting of their politicians and looking for too much hopium in their politicians. Where should we be looking for hopium for Bitcoin? And should it be or should it not be the presidential candidates?
Well, it's great that the presidential candidates are giving opinions on it. That's good. It shows that that they can't get away with murder once they don't do the things that they said. But no, you shouldn't take them at their word that they're going to do everything. You know, some of it is just to get attention. But it's great that they want to get attention this way. We could never have imagined this in 2017 presidential or during the 2016 election. If Hillary and Trump would have started talking about Bitcoin, it would have been, I mean, it was totally unheard of. So that the fact that they're talking about it is cool, and that the three-letter agencies aren't going to be able to get their way per se. Like, I think when they're not talking about it, the worst thing that can happen is like the three-letter agencies going totally buck wild, totally going the way of Elizabeth Warren type of thing. And I think you want to consider who in charge would be neutral enough. You know, wouldn't it be as insane that the three-letter agencies wouldn't go wild under their watch? Okay, so the people, I think that the candidates that speak the most being pro Bitcoin, you have to bet that under them, that yeah, sure, the three-letter agencies are going to do some things that you wouldn't expect, but it won't be as bad. But under certain ones, it's just going to be, yeah, they'll be silent on the congressional and presidential side, but they'll let it all happen, you know, on the fourth wing of government there, deep state, whatever. But no, people should not put these guys on pedestals. But at the same time, we have to be somewhat rational and look at what's really going on in the world, that it's a different world than 2016. And the very fact that they have to talk about it, that they have to pander to us now, that we have given them money now, and that if you think logically through, you know, the modern era, they care about money. And so they won't let it get to a nuclear level with these agencies. They won't illegalize it, is what I'm saying. They will not make it illegal, and they will not make it just totally dictatorial over Bitcoin. Almost most of them now even, you know, Biden is starting to, you know, do some things that are, you know, he was the worst of all three of them in terms of what you thought he could do. But now he is clearly pulled in the reins. So that's by example. We know what he's already done. Now, maybe it's just for election purposes to get elected again. But, you know, make your own judgment. I would not worry too much about the government in terms of negativity at this point, because I think they've gone past the point of no return in making it illegal. There's just so many things where they can't do it. It's just too intertwined with the normies now. It's too the financial donations are too intertwined with so many members of Congress and state legislatures. I mean, there are some states that might this might be something to null if the government tried to illegalize Bitcoin, that this might be the moment that some of these states try to pull a nullification and say, no, we're not doing that. You can come here.
Wyoming, Texas.
Yeah, God willing. And they should have that, but I don't think it'll even come to that at this point. I think they've thrown up their hands now. The federal government said just like, no, let it be. We're making tax money off the whole thing, whatever. So you did say something about the every time there's a so-called disaster that people leave the room. A lot of people leave the room, and then they peek back in. I think some of the ones that peek back in are bitter, and they become Bitcoin haters. And then some of them just go on. They go on to the next thing: medical marijuana, whatever it's going, or growing marijuana.
AI.
Yeah, AI, whatever.
Peter Schiff's son, like I'm pretty sure if he had any Bitcoin, he sold it, and he used to talk about Bitcoin, sort of the antithesis of his father, and then all of a sudden he dropped off like maybe 9 months ago, and he became an AI aficionado. I'm like,
let's be more specific. He dropped off in 2022. Yeah.
2022.
Yeah, what about 2023? You know, when things were going down, is when he got
sold the bottom probably. Yeah, and now he'll never be happy about Bitcoin ever again.
And that's so many people. But then you get a whole new crop of people. But some of them have the same exact mentality. So that just fuels the new generation.
Yeah.
It's just something I've seen so many times. But so don't be those people. Like I just, there are always people that leave the room. They think they're so smart, and then they end up being bitter, or they just go into some other thing. So
I feel bad for your friend. He sold at relatively a good price when you look backwards. But again, if you don't have an understanding of where money and technology and the internet is going, how could you? I mean, we're living in 2024. We can literally send a text message anywhere instantly, and we couldn't do that 15 years ago, 10 years ago. So how is it that you don't think that there would be a time when you could send money instantly anywhere and without any grift, without any friction? It almost seems like, are you just living in a perpetual caveman mentality? Humanity is going to progress, and we have to progress in everything, and money included.
This is the thing. Some of the people are so youthful, or just so unaware, they don't see the progression of the last 10 years. They take it for granted. They think every single person has always had a smartphone. They think that, even though that's not true. As of 10 years ago, that was not. I didn't have anything like that. It's just they really have no perspective. They very bad short-term, long-term memories or whatever. They don't see how things are progressing. So they don't see how great and big of a thing this has been, how much of a change this has been, and what it's really doing, and how we're progressing. They don't see progress at all. They just think things have always been this way. Yeah, there's always been Bitcoin, and now it's dropping in price, so I'm jumping off of it. I'm going to jump on whatever's more trendy now. They don't think about progress. They think about trends. That's all they care about. It's important to know some trends, because trends usually involve some things that involve progress and technology. That's great. But you got to be able to recognize that this world is changing. And it does shock me on the other side of things that people, this is mostly an older person type of thing, that they still think that gold can be like this. There's so many people on the internet are like, nah, I just like to buy gold. I'm not going to buy the big. I'm like, have you not been around the reality to see how much Bitcoin has gone up in price compared to gold? Like, oh yeah, you made $200 on gold over 10 years. Congratulations. They think that's good, because sometimes they lose money over gold.
It's arguably worse than bonds.
It is worse. They don't understand how much Bitcoin's going on. They just close their mind to it. They don't do the simple math that a fifth grader could do. Like, okay, Bitcoin is like going up 100x. Gold has made $200. What is better? They don't see that at all. These gold bugs. They're like, I don't know. I feel they're of a generation they'll just get. I mean, and
they're in a mindset where they think where we are now is the best it ever will be. So for everything that they're experiencing that's the big boom, that's the big trend, and now it's going to drop tomorrow.
Yeah, that's the thing. They want a stone age. Some of them are such doomers. They want a nuclear weapon to explode. They want there to be no money, that you have to trade with rocks now and stuff. Although they would all die right away because they're out of shape. They couldn't run. They couldn't kill their own food.
They don't grow their own food. They don't kill their own food. They can't defend their own land.
They can't walk.
They'll be wiped out real fast.
They would die. They cannot run. Like literally, most of these gold bug guys could not run at all. Run. When I say, I don't mean like a mile, I mean run, physically run, which is like, and people are like, oh, you're exaggerating. No. Have you been to a Walmart? I mean, have you seen most people? I mean, sadly, a lot of people haven't been out of their houses for a long time. They don't see normies anymore, how bad shape they are in. So whatever. I don't think the gold bug, I'm fascinated by the gold bugs, by just their complete, just being out of touch with reality. And like, there's sometimes, and it's the same thing with the people that are like, Ethereum's going to die or Ethereum must die. I'm like, dudes, you might not like reality, but you have to just admit that, A is A, B is B. These things exist. This has happened. There's some people that like things you don't like. But I think gold is silly. It's not going away. There are always going to be these people thinking that gold coins, physical things are, they're so cool, they're so great. But it doesn't bother me. It just, I wonder why they close their minds off the Bitcoin so much. It's just so sad. But no, let the gold bugs be gold bugs. Let the silver bugs be sorry. Let the Ethereum bugs be Ethereum. And let's see how it all plays out. It's fine. We'll see. When I say we'll see, we've already seen too. That's the thing. If you can't see what we've already seen for the last 11 years, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you.
Adam, you know, when I talk to you, it seems like time goes by so quickly, but we're essentially at the end of our time. So I want to thank you for coming on the show. But before we go, you know, you're always having new projects. You always have something going on. I'd like you to tell the audience what you're doing, and we'll try to add it in the show notes so people can follow your work.
I mean, the biggest thing is I'm on Twitter every day, posting out new ideas. Techbalt, TECHBALT. I'm going to try to do some more videos soon on my Bitcoin. I just did one the other day, a new video. As everyone remembers, back in the day, I used to do a video every day. But I mean, people enjoyed them. And so I think I'm going to be doing some more now because I do have some new ideas to share on there. We're getting to a point now where I am going to eventually use some of my Bitcoin to fund some of the things that I like in real life. And I think a lot of people know the things that I like. I love, you know, traveling or getting people out to the Mountain West region of the country. I've really fallen in love with Salt Lake City and just, you know, the mentality of these East Coasters they're treating it as trees being in Baltimore or Philadelphia or New York, even though as things go crazy out there and they have these stereotypes about the Mountain West, how everyone's a racist out here. Yet in Brooklyn, Jewish people like me getting the beat down out here. Right. They love us. It's great. And how Mormons are insane. Yet the Mormon culture here is so awesome in Salt Lake City. And just these breaking down these misconceptions and stuff. I'm very interested in that. And yeah, we'll see what creative type of things I thought. And some of these Mormon people, the most capitalistic people you ever met in life. I mean, they want to build. And this is just a whole region of building. So, you know, who knows what I'm going to get involved with promoting this with some of my funds that I've saved. But see, eventually, you know, people are right. You got to put your money somewhere. But I want to make a big deal out of it when I do it. What I give the money to and how much it's going to be. I want it to be something that's newsworthy. So eventually, one of these days, God willing, people are going to all of a sudden see like, oh, I haven't heard about Adam Meister for a while, which is sad for them because I haven't disappeared. But oh my, he's funding this new thing. What is this? This is the craziest thing I've ever heard of. It'll be different. I'm a unique beast. Whatever I decide to fund, which hope will soon be announced. You know, we're getting to that point. It'll be a unique beast. It'll be different and combine a lot of things I like. Hopefully, health too. Who knows what else? You know, who knows? That's
brilliant. Adam Meister, my very own OG friend. Thank you for being on the show. I appreciate it.
It was a pleasure. Thank you very much.
So that was Adam Meister again. He's my OG bro. You know, I met him randomly at Pacific Bitcoin in 2022. I went up to him because I was impacted by the stories he tells, by his passion, by his enthusiasm for the future, for where this world is going. And while we go through bumps and bruises along the way, generally this world is getting better than where it was before. And Bitcoin is going to be helping that transition along the way. I'm Sir Ulric, like my father before me. Tune in next week when we have another brilliant Bitcoin guest.